Here's a concise summary of the Canadian Auto Dealer article. Canada retaliates against U.S. auto tariffs amid growing trade war. Published April 4, 2025 by Perry Lefko. Following U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping global tariff announcement, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced counter tariffs targeting
Canada retaliates against U.S. auto tariffs amid growing trade war. Published April 4, 2025 by Perry Lefko. Following U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping global tariff announcement, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced counter tariffs targeting U.S. vehicle imports that don't comply with CUSMA or have non-Canadian content. Auto parts are exempt to preserve integrated supply chains. Wrench key developments. Canada's 25% tariffs aim to protect domestic industry while generating $8 billion in support for affected businesses and workers. Exemptions and a framework will allow automakers to avoid counter tariffs if they maintain investment and production in Canada. Carney called the U.S. tariffs unjustified, unwarranted, and misguided. Hammer and wrench industry reactions. Daniel Ross, Canadian Black Book Canada was spared the worst. Many U.S. vehicles include Canadian content, softening the blow. David Adams, global automakers of Canada tariffs will worsen affordability and reduce demand. GAC urges Ottawa to preserve CUSMA's integrity. Freeze ZEV mandates temporarily. Pause new regulations amid trade uncertainty. Remove federal luxury tax on vehicles. Ensure auto sector consultation on trade matters. Automobile market effects. Stellantis idled plants in Windsor and Mexico. Dan Park, Clutch CEO: new car supply may drop, prices will rise, and consumer demand may shift toward used vehicles. Sean McTavish, AutoZen CEO: new car prices will increase soon, though used prices remain mostly stable. Rob Stein, Plaza Auto Group brands like Kia and Hyundai may be less affected due to sourcing outside the U.S. Confusion reigns. Experts, including Peter Frise, University of Windsor, say the impact of these tariffs is unclear, even among those in the industry. I don't think the U.S. government understands what they're trying to do, said Frise. Let me know if you'd like a version tailored for dealership leaders or used vehicle strategy briefings.
Here's a concise summary of the Canadian Auto Dealer article. U.S. tariffs to broadly impact its own auto industry, analysts warn. Published April 4, 2025. Following U.S. President Donald Trump's Liberation Day announcement, a 25% tariff on all imported vehicles took effect, sending shockwaves through the American auto industry. Key takeaways. Cox Automotive Chief Economist Jonathan Smoke says the tariffs will have a broad and lasting impact, driving higher vehicle prices, new and used, falling vehicle sales, potential elimination of certain models. The policy aims to reshape the U.S. auto market to favor domestic production, not serve as a negotiation tool. Aaron Keating, Cox executive analyst, warns that the price hike could push more low to mid-income buyers out of the new car market, particularly households earning under $100,000, a pattern seen during COVID-related supply shortages. Market outlook. Analysts expect slow, difficult growth in U.S. vehicle production. Affordability challenges will worsen, especially for entry-level consumers. Tariffs are likely to create disruption and inflation, and math, while offering no quick fix for supply chain or production limitations. Let me know if you'd like a visual version for investor briefings or dealership planning. Here's a concise summary of the Canadian Auto Dealer article. Used vehicle market stabilizing amid value shifts, says Canadian Black Book. Published April 4, 2025. The Canadian used vehicle market is showing early signs of stabilization and slight upward movement, according to a recent update from Canadian Black Book, CBB. Key market insights. For the week ending March 29, overall pricing was flat at plus 0.01%, up from 0.17% the week before. Truck SUV prices increased to 0.04%. Car prices slightly dipped to minus 0.03%. Winners: premium sports cars plus 0.13% and compact cars 0.06% led gains in the car segment. Subcompact luxury crossovers 0.93%, compact SUVs 0.5%, and full-size pickups and 0.42% drove SUV truck segment gains. Losers: full-size cars and 0.67% and minivans 2.5% posted the largest declines. Inventory trends. Supply entering the market is rising. Upstream channels, e.g. fleet and wholesale pipelines, still claim early access to inventory. Demand for used vehicles at auctions remains high on both sides of the border. Other updates. Quebec has reinstated its Roulez Vert ZEV, zero-emission vehicle, incentive program. Toyota and Honda reaffirmed their support for Canadian manufacturing operations. Let me know if you'd like a chart showing vehicle segment trends or a version tailored for dealership inventory managers. Here's a concise summary of the Canadian Auto Dealer article. Shash Quebec-based car thieves arrested in Ontario as part of Project Carbon, published April 4, 2025. Durham Regional Police arrested 11 suspects from Quebec as part of Project Carbon, a joint operation targeting organized auto theft in Ontario's Durham region. Key highlights. The suspects traveled from Quebec to Ontario, stole vehicles, and transported them back to Quebec. Initial arrests were made in March without incident. Police recovered 20 stolen vehicles, 18 still missing, vehicle theft tools, Canadian currency, cocaine. Government response. Z. Hamid, Ontario's Associate Solicitor General, praised the success of Project Carbon, attributing it to the Preventing Auto Theft grant, designed to fund more aggressive crime-fighting efforts. 8 suspects were previously released and are now facing failed-to-comply charges. 4 additional suspects remain at large, with warrants issued. The operation reinforces Ontario's increased focus on curbing auto theft through targeted law enforcement and government-backed funding. Let me know if you'd like a timeline or visual summary of the investigation. Here's a concise summary of the Canadian Auto Dealer article. Holland Automotive Group acquires Aston Martin dealership in Romania. Published April 4, 2025. Holland Automotive Group, based in Mount Royal, Quebec, has acquired Aston Martin Bucharest, expanding its ultra-luxury presence into Eastern Europe. Key highlights. Holland already represents elite brands like Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, McLaren, Maserati, BMW, Mini, and Lotus. CEO Gad Bitten says the acquisition reinforces Holland's leadership in the premium and ultra-luxury segment. Aston Martin's regional president, Andreas Barais, praised the move for enhancing the brand's European dealer network and customer experience. The Bucharest store will focus on delivering personalized experiences, exclusive services, and premium customization. The expansion supports both Holland's international growth and Aston Martin's performance goals in Europe's luxury automotive market. Let me know if you'd like this styled for a press release or investor update. Here's a concise summary of the BBC Tech Decoded newsletter from April 4th, 2025. Top story. Trump's tariffs hit tech sector hard. U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping new tariffs have led to nearly $1 trillion in lost market value for major U.S. tech firms. Apple's stock plunged 9%, its worst day since March 2020. Tech firms are vulnerable due to their reliance on global supply chains, especially in China and India. Industry leaders warn of higher prices, economic slowdown, and weakened U.S. leadership in AI. Global fallout. China has already retaliated with its own tariffs. The EU is considering countermeasures, potentially targeting U.S. digital services, which could affect companies like Microsoft and Meta. TikTok deal nears deadline. Trump says TikTok is very close to securing a U.S. buyer. Potential buyers include a former MLB team owner, a top YouTuber, a British founder of an adult content platform. Feature. Inside Microsoft at 50, BBC tech editor Zoe Kleinman tours Microsoft's Redmond HQ, 520-acre campus with over 130 buildings. Archives holding decades of Microsoft memorabilia. Focus on AI, cloud, cybersecurity gaming, e.g. LinkedIn, Activision Blizzard acquisition. Despite success, VP Brad Smith says, every year it feels like we're behind. The frontier keeps moving. Other highlights: influencer arrested for trying to contact a protected, uncontacted tribe on North Sentinel Island. Minecraft psychology, why it taps into our innate desire to build. AI osteopath app, now helping UK patients manage back pain. Quote of the week: the brand is broken and may not be fixable. Ross Gerber on Tesla after its sales hit a 3-year low. Let me know if you'd like this adapted for a business or investor briefing format. Here's a concise summary of the Bloomberg article. VW and Mercedes respond to Trump's tariffs with price hikes and U.S. production plans, published April 3, 2025, by Stefan Nicola and William Wilkes. In response to President Donald Trump's 25% auto tariffs, European automakers are taking swift action to mitigate the financial hit. Key responses: Volkswagen VW will raise vehicle prices on U.S. imports, including models like the Golf. Mercedes-Benz and Volvo are considering expanding production in the U.S. to avoid tariffs entirely. Industry impact: the tariffs are creating immediate pricing pressure for European brands. Car makers are reevaluating global manufacturing strategies to protect margins and market share in the U.S. This marks a significant shift in the global auto supply chain as manufacturers adapt to rising protectionist policies. Let me know if you'd like a comparison with Japanese automaker responses or a visual breakdown of production shifts.
Holy shnikes. This calls for either a new test at Access Nova Scotia or some AA cooperation. Not easy.
This is the Future of Automotive with Steve Greenfield.
Well, welcome back. The latest episode of the Future of Automotive on CBT News, where we put recent automotive and mobility news into the context of the broader themes impacting the industry. I'm Steve Greenfield from Automotive Ventures, and I'm really glad that you could join us this week. Well, America's love affair with larger and larger vehicles seems to be continuing. According to data from Nat Bullard, vehicles on average weigh about the same today as they did back 50 years ago in 1975. But the change in distribution of a vehicle segment has been dramatic over the past 50 years. In 1975, 80% of new vehicle sales were sedans or wagons, and almost 0% were trucks and SUVs. Fast forward to today, and only 25% of new vehicles are sedans or wagons, and 45% are trucks or SUVs. So while the average weight of new vehicles sold hasn't really changed, we're selling a ton more trucks and SUVs today. Looking across the top 10 vehicles sold in 2024 really shines a light on this. We see a number of full-size pickups and large SUVs on this list. According to Ed Kim, the president of Auto Pacific, there are two main reasons why vehicles are bigger in the US. Ultimately, it comes down to the price of fuel. Americans definitively complain about the price of gasoline, but the reality is that gasoline is taxed far less in the US than it is in almost any other country around the world. Cheap fuel allows Americans to drive far larger vehicles and less fuel-efficient vehicles compared to drivers in many other parts across the world. Relatedly, American roads are designed to accommodate these larger vehicles, and we have, due to the cheaper fuel, we've historically had. Streets are wide, and even most parking spaces are sized to accommodate larger vehicles. Recent data from The Economist shows that a driver is 7 times more likely to die when hit by a Ford F-150 versus a Toyota Camry. Knowing this, really, would you put your teenage kid into a subcompact car? The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, or IIHS, backs up this idea, stating that a bigger, heavier vehicle provides better crash protection than a smaller, lighter one, assuming no other differences between those two vehicles. When it comes to American preference for larger and larger vehicles, I think the proverbial toothpaste is out of the tube. It's going to be really hard to get back in. As more people buy larger cars, the tendency to want to match the size they see on the road increases. That's especially true in suburban areas where there's more space and bigger driveways. I don't know how we can ever provide enough incentives to take this trend in the alternative direction and have consumers migrate back towards smaller cars. So with that, let's transition to our companies to watch. Every week, we highlight interesting companies in the automotive technology space to keep an eye on. If you happen to read my weekly Intel report, we showcase a company to watch, and then take the opportunity here on this segment each week to share that company with you. Today, our new company to watch is called Vision AST. Vision AST provides franchise automotive dealers and their warranty providers with profit-driving sales analytics. Vision AST is a data-driven analytics platform built for dealers by dealers to bring more profit to your bottom line. Uncover critical information from your DMS data and use it to increase profit. Vision AST helps generate thousands of dollars in additional profit each month for dealers across the United States. If you'd like to learn more about Vision AST, you can check them out at www.visionast.com. So that's it for this week's Future of Automotive segment. If you're an auto tech entrepreneur working on a solution that helps car dealerships, we want to hear from you. We are actively investing out of our dealer fund. Don't forget to check out my first book, The Future of Automotive Retail, and my brand new book, The Future of Mobility, both of which are now available on Amazon.com. Thanks as always for your ongoing support and for tuning into CBT News for this week's Future of Automotive segment, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for watching The Future of Automotive with Steve Greenfield.
Here's a concise summary of the Ward's Auto article. Dealers share concerns as EV adoption slows and tariffs cloud the future. Published April 3, 2025 by Steve Finley. With battery electric vehicle BEV sales slowing in some U.S. markets and the introduction of 25% auto import tariffs by President Trump, dealers are expressing growing uncertainty about the future of EV adoption. Key takeaways from dealers across the U.S. 1. John Luciano, Volkswagen dealer, Texas. BEVs are a tough sell in oil-rich regions. EVs like the ID4 sell okay, but expensive models like the ID Buzz are sitting unsold. Customers see EVs as secondary vehicles, not replacements for gas-powered cars. 2. Tim Jackson, former Colorado Dealer Association head. EV interest varies regionally. Colorado has surpassed California in EV market share. He expects regional EV adoption, not nationwide dominance. Dealers are willing to sell EVs if there's demand. 3. Andrew DeFeo, Hyundai dealer, Florida. Slower EV demand in Florida led to reduced EV inventory. Range anxiety and charging infrastructure remain top concerns. He forecasts 25% EV market share by 2030, up from 9% today. 4. Bob Lanham, CEO, Cars Now. Yeah, EV digital leads outperform ICE vehicle leads, especially for Hyundai, 12%. Online shoppers show greater interest in EVs, but the biggest hurdle is education on battery life, costs, range, and charging. Market uncertainty. Dealers are wary of how new tariffs and political shifts may impact BEV momentum. The industry is in a wait-and-see mode to determine how policies and pricing will affect consumer decisions. Let me know if you'd like a regional adoption breakdown or a version geared toward EV training for dealership staff.
Car dealerships have faced many challenges that machine learning can solve. Let's say you take in 100 leads this month. The problem is that 40 are on the same unit. That unit sells, and you mark the other 39 leads as dead, but the 39 buyers are still alive, actively searching. Machine learning uncovers fresh customer insights from new active search data, automatically retargeting your leads with other relevant stock. And like magic, dead leads come back to life. It's all inside the machine.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick with CBT News. The 25% tariff on all imported autos and auto parts went into effect yesterday, April 2nd. Joining us now with his perspective on this announcement and maybe recommendations for his members is Cody Lusk, the president and CEO of AIADA. Thank you, Cody, for taking the time out of your busy schedule there in D.C. You are a stone's throw away from the Rose Garden announcement that the president made yesterday, and I see you smiling there. What's your reaction?
Invited, Jim. They didn't have me there, but it was we did watch it. So.
Maybe next time. So, what is your reaction to all this? I mean, here you are, the president of the American International Auto Dealers Association. This is it must be like a stake through your heart, right?
Well, I mean, ironically enough, this was how the association was founded by a group of Volkswagen dealers that were reacting to a 25% tariff that they were putting on German auto imports as a result of a poultry dispute. And
wow,
we still have
interesting. Okay.
Chicken tax on 25% tariff on pickup trucks to this day. So everything comes around full circle. And I think if I had told, a lot of people that in 2025 we would be looking at 25% tariffs across the board, they might have thought I was crazy. But here we are, and this industry deals with things, and we're problem solvers, and we're gonna solve these problems.
Sure. What kind of calls are you getting from your members? Are they hey, let's give the guy a chance? Are they, we got to do something? What's the consensus out there?
I think, there's been a lot of confusion, and partly that's been driven by the administration itself, because we started off with tariffs on again, off again with
Yeah.
Canada and Mexico and steel and aluminum, and then these auto tariffs that were announced a week ago. And are these going to be utilized as a revenue raiser, or are we trying to get people to build things here, or is it just a negotiating tactic? And I mean, I think you have all over the map. And I think the president has been very clear. I think your interview with Senator Marino and Senator Marino made it very clear. This is not a negotiate as it relates to autos and auto parts. This is something he has wanted for a long time.
Right.
And he has wanted this 25% tariff for a long time. He wanted it in his first administration, and kind of COVID got in the way. So I think a lot of dealers are a little bit shocked that he was actually going through with this. And we find ourselves, as of now, staring at these tariffs. Now, we'll say, I think dealers are always an optimistic group. We had a big sales weekend just before the announcement.
That's for sure.
It highlights the fact that consumers know that this is going to impact prices across the board.
Right.
And they wanted to get out and pull some of those sales forward. We're still seeing how the manufacturers react. It's going to take, we met with USTR earlier this week, and we have said it's going to take a couple of months to kind of cycle through the system and see how this really plays out. Again, our biggest issue has been affordability. And with a payment of $780, you add on a few $100s of that, you're north of $1,000 of a monthly payment, financed out at a higher interest rate. And interest, all these tariffs we announced, and we'll talk about the totality of this, Jim, because I think all the dealers and everything are just focused on our piece of the puzzle, but you're talking about the totality of every country that we deal with is going to get hit with the fluctuating import tax, and we're still not sure how they're going to do all that because they're not a uniform number. So consumers are going to get hit left, right, and center across the board, from the groceries they buy, not just related to autos. They're going to have less spending, less money to spend on cars than they might otherwise have, because they're spending it on their homes, their rents going up, everything's going up across the board.
Right. Now, the president, during his announcement in the Rose Garden yesterday, held up a chart that had, all of the tariffs that other countries charge to us. And I think it was an eye-opener for a lot of Americans. Obviously, some of them were as high as 200%, 300%, 400% tariffs on our products. And it looked like the reciprocal tax that he was going to be suggesting or putting into place was about half of that number that they're charging us. There's probably a lot of Americans that took a look at that and said, whoa, we didn't know it was that unfair out there, right?
Well, and I think you have to look at it from, normally what happens is an industry comes to the U.S. government, which has all kinds of remedies at its disposal, and says, hey, we're trying to sell into this market. We can't get into this market because there's this X tariff. And let's take the automotive, for example. I wish that this was an issue of the Detroit guys' inability to get into markets around the world.
Yeah.
They didn't ask for this. That's not the issue.
Right.
The 10% auto tariff in Europe is not the issue. The fact that Japan has no auto tariffs is not even mentioned. So, if there's a problem, let's go solve the problem. That's what trade negotiations are all about.
Right.
They can cherry pick our tariffs. I mean, we have a 25%. Well, now we have the highest auto tariffs in the world at 25%.
Yeah.
So we've kind of, we went to the highest level from cars being at a relatively modest level. So again, we have remedies there. So let's go solve these problems if our importers or our farmers can't get into certain markets. But that, just cherry picking numbers that people have in certain things and saying it's unfair. I mean, it's just there. If nobody's trying to even import there, what does it even matter?
Right. Now, a number of the vehicles and a number of your members are dealers that are that have got new car franchises where the vehicles are built here in the United States and assembled here. So talk to me about that. Are we going to see now over the course of the next 4 years an influx of those non-American made cars building factories here?
Well, we've seen that, Jim.
Yeah.
Since 1980, the highlight what has happened in auto production, and they had a United Auto Worker that talks about nothing but plants closing all over the place in Detroit. Well, maybe that's Detroit, but look where you are, and look where you are And it's like this. So
That,
our members, we are very proud of what they have done to this country in the last 20 years, and by the way, have continued to make commitment after commitment without the threat of a hammer over their head.
right.
They're doing it because U.S. is a good place to do business. I hope it continues in the future. But no one, to my knowledge, that has anything in Canada right now or Mexico has said we're moving that. We need to move that ASAP to the U.S.
Right.
I think what I've seen from the OEMs is that we're not making a business decision based on a 4-year term. You can't move a plant overnight.
No, you can't.
And it's again, I hear a lot about this is a part of we're reshaping the overall economy. This is the pain that we have to endure on the front end. And maybe that's true. I just wish we approached it a little differently. I kind of equate this, to put in dealer terms, it's as if we decided, you know what, we're in a small store, it's run down, it's tired. We need to go build a great big store and sell thousands more units and service thousands more units a month. And then before you have a lot, or before you have a location, before you have approval from the factory, before you have loan, before you have any financing, you tear your current building down.
That's right. Now you're in trouble. Now you got nothing.
We've sort of taken the hard foul early with the promise of some of these goodies on the end.
Sure.
And a lot of my and I've heard a lot of dealers, which I love the dealer optimism, and I love the fact that we're so optimistic because we solve problems. But they have a lot more confidence in Congress to do a lot of great things that maybe they haven't done. And I'm using this week as an example because they couldn't pass a rule out of the House to even start doing business, so they just closed up and went home. So, we're counting on them to do all these great things with tax cuts and other things. So I might have wanted to get that tax structure and incentive structure in place before we did the hard stuff, but I don't have an option. Now we're dealing with the hard stuff up front.
Sure. Do you have, it sounds like you don't have as much problem with the concept of a tariff, just the way in which it's being implemented and executed. Is that a fair statement?
I think that the evolution, and I credit President Trump with this because he has, tariff for forever was a 4-letter word, and he brought it into the lexicon. And you hear him, the Jamie Dimons of the world. I think when you look at a country, let's take China, for example. When you have somebody that is knowingly flaunting all the rules, that is blatantly, as I say it, they're a predatory exporter. And so I think tariffs and that to truly protect your national security, I think could be utilized in a positive fashion. But let's back up a little bit to where we are. He declared that automobile imports are a threat to national security.
Yes.
And that's why we're here with these 25% tariffs. So I take exception that we're actually a threat to national security. I think if there is anything that does come down the pike, we have the capacity here. We have more capacity. Our friends in Canada, who were our allies in many wars, I'm not sure what they are today, but I think that we would have more than enough capacity and the willingness to help from all of our friends to we would need to do. So, if you want to that's the mechanism they use, but I think it is a little bit over the top to declare or actually try to argue that, in fact, automobile imports are national security.
Sure. We've been dealing, as you know, in this country with inflation that's been out of control. And it's still, while it's low, it's still, a little bit higher than we'd like it to be, obviously. What do you think about it when the president makes a statement about, I couldn't care less if it raises the price of cars? What?
It goes back to the fundamental issue that we're fighting in our industry is the ability to get people in the cars that they want, and affordability is a huge factor.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about that monthly payment, and if that monthly payment's going up, it's going to sell less cars. I guess with the interest rates where they are, and given the actions, let's put this into context. This is the largest tax. I mean, again, we haven't have the goodies on the back end yet, and I don't know what those are going to be. But right now, we're staring at the largest tax increase without a wartime, the largest non-wartime tax increase in American history.
Yeah.
And so that's what hitting the American people. And I worry about how that, and also how consumer confidence has been waning, and growth is slowing. And look at what the Atlanta Fed has predicted for negative growth. So I worry about that in the short term and how we deal with that, because again, customers are about making that monthly payment. Their insurance costs are going up.
Right.
Service is going up. So it's and if they're paying more for the groceries, they've got less to spend here.
Yeah, there's a little over 3 million new cars on dealerships lots as we sit here today. It looks like they've got some runway there anyway before they're going to be hit with these tariffs of incoming cars. We're already starting to see ads from dealers that say, "Hey, this is pre-tariff," or "This is tariff-free vehicles that we've got. Come on in." We just finished, as you pointed out, an incredible March. It looks like it's going to make up for a great quarter. For the first quarter of 2025. Do you think anything could change between now and by the time those vehicles run out and dealers are loading their lots back up again?
I mean, I think, again, we're dealing with this president who changes his mind and is not afraid to change his mind.
Yeah.
He thinks things aren't going the way that he wants. So if this is not going the way that he wants, yeah, he reserves the right to change this at any moment. I don't think the tariffs would increase, but I think there's always, and that's part of this give and take that he has proven that he's willing to do. I mean, he's a negotiator, so hopefully we might have to live with this for a little bit, but hopefully, some commitments can be made. Senator Moreno was pretty blunt about saying these tariffs are here to stay for 4 years. So, everybody get used to it.
Right.
I'm not 100% certain. I'm just going on, look what we've just seen in a month or 2 months on Canada and Mexico, where it's on again, off again, and fluctuating. But, dealers have inventory now. They have things to sell. I think a lot of dealers I talk to are kind of dusting off their COVID playbook a little bit. Obviously, the difference here is we know that for certainty this is going to last a while, and interest rates are not where they were. They're at a much higher place. And if you look at the inflationary impact of tariffs, again, across the board, not just on our sector, I don't know that the Fed's going to be lowering those rates anytime soon. I guess it depends what growth does and others. But, we're kind of getting the double whammy with increased costs and interest rates remaining where they are.
Yeah. Did the White House reach out to you as head of an organization that represents foreign brands to say, I'd love to at least get your input on this.
Well, we've had discussions with them, but the president has made up his mind. He made up his, again, Senator Vance or Vice President Vance is sending out, clips of him hammering the Japanese when he was, a real estate tycoon in New York. So these are not new policies in his mind.
Yeah.
He's always been very pro-tariff and very anti-import across the board. I don't know if that goes back to him, not being able to buy Pebble Beach if and when, but there's a lot of issues there. We would love to, sit down with the president, but I will say with this president, flattery gets you everywhere. So
yes, it does. Just last question here. What either advice or is there anything that you'd like to share with your members in light of all of this today? Is there anything that they can do to help your efforts there?
Well, we're talking about, we have to let this sort of play out and see what the reaction is. I think the great thing about dealers and what we try, and I've learned and through working with some of these top business leaders is not to panic and, figure out how it's all going to play out. We're seeing how each OEM is reacting. They're all reacting differently to their portfolios, figuring out how to adapt to these rules. Some of the stuff relating to the USMCA and the parts, very confusing. They're trying to work through all that. So, be patient, look for guidance. We'll have guidance coming out. NADA I'm sure we'll have guidance.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of information out there, but not panic. Again, we're best at the franchise model proves itself year in and year out that we're the best at what we do. We'll find a way to get customers the vehicles they want. I just do worry long term about the impact this will have on sales and jobs and the overall market and the overall economy of the U.S.
Sure. Cody Lusk, president of the AIADA, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I know that our viewers, many of which are your members, will get a lot out of your message here today. So thanks so much and best of luck to you.
Always great to be with you. Thanks for doing what you do, Jim.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.